welcome to my channel, or welcome back. I'm Alessandra. I'm constantly recommending books to my friends. I'm going to give you my top 10 favorite books in this video. I promise I have something for everyone in this list. From heart-pounding thrillers to inspirational life stories, motivational books, and a lot of romance, I'm going to give you a great mix. These books are sure to captivate, inspire, and leave you thinking about them long after you've turned the last page. Let's get into it. These are in no particular order. I am going to start with Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. If you read any book in your lifetime, this is the book to read. It has some of the best life advice in here. It's so relatable. I'll read some of my highlighted parts. Oh, this is a great one. Every adversity brings with it the seed of an equivalent advantage. It really isn't necessarily about getting rich. It's more so about being a rich individual. There's great examples, people to look up to, stories to really hone in on. Love it. Verity. I know this is such a popular book. So many people have read it. If you have not, you have to get this. This is the book that got me back on my reading train after that break that I took. This book leaves you wanting more. This, I think, is the best book by Colleen Hoover. It is so interesting. There's so many plot twists. This was such a good book. I highly recommend Verity by Colleen Hoover. Taylor Jenkins Reid is my absolute favorite author. I've read every single one of her books. This one is probably my favorite, but the other ones are very close behind. It's called Maybe in Another Life, and the main character, Hannah, she runs into an old flame, and then the story then goes in two different directions. In every other chapter, you have alternating stories, as if she made the decision to go with him or she made the decision to go home by herself. It's so good, guys. It's a very relatable story. A lot of times in our life, we wonder what would happen if we made the opposite decision. This kind of takes you on both. Does she end up with her true love? Does she find true love in both stories? It's really good. It definitely keeps you intrigued and interested. It doesn't get boring. Definitely check this one out if you have not. The Mountain Is You by Brianna West. This is such a popular book on social media right now. All of her books are extremely popular. This, I feel like, next to Think and Grow Rich, is one of the most important books that you should read. It takes you on this journey of life and how you overcome obstacles, how you develop and become who you're meant to be, transforming those negative thoughts and mindsets into becoming a master at your life. I try to read this once a year. It's just that good. And no matter what you're going through in life and what season of life you're in, it's always relatable in a different aspect than it was the last time you read it, and that's why I love rereading this one, and it is such an easy read. Oh, now we're getting into some psychological thrillers. Frida McFadden is an incredible author. I read this whole series. It's The Housemaid, and The Housemaid's Secret is the second one, I believe. This one, she becomes a nanny for a family, and things get really interesting really quick. You're really wondering, like, who's good, who's bad, what's gonna happen. Every chapter you're on the edge of your seat. I read this in like 2 days and immediately ordered the next one. It is that good of a read, so definitely check this one out, especially if you love thrillers. This is the last self-help book that I put in here, but if you guys want a video on just motivational self-help life books, I am your girl. I read so many of those, Christian life books, all those, so we could do another video on that. But this is always going to be in one of my top 10s, especially since I'm still in my 20s. The Defining Decade, Why Your 20s Matter and How to Make the Most of Them Now. It talks about how your 30s aren't your new 20s, your 20s are your 20s, and it's so important to take advantage of them and do the things that you want to do, master the skills that you want to master. It's a new insight into living life in your 20s than what we see and learn through society and social media. If you're in your 20s, I recommend reading this at the beginning of your 20s and at the end of your 20s. It will have such different meanings. Definitely check this out. It will help you rethink how you're living your life in your 20s and make sure that you're on the right path to success and happiness in your life. The Silent Patient and The Maidens, both written by Alex Michaelides, I believe is his last name. They aren't a series, however, if you read The Silent Patient, I recommend reading The Maidens. I don't hear a lot of people talk about it, but it does have some characters go over into this book. So I read The Silent Patient first after the rave 2 years ago, all over TikTok and YouTube. It did not disappoint. I was totally wrong on my guesses of what were to happen in this book. A woman is accused of killing her husband, and a psychotherapist is intrigued by the story, goes in, wants to work with her, and a lot happens. They're trying to get her to talk. She doesn't talk. Everyone I've recommended this to has loved it. So definitely check out The Silent Patient. And if you've read The Silent Patient and you have not read The Maidens, I feel like this book doesn't get the hype that it deserves. I loved it. This book takes place in Cambridge University. There's a murder and there's more murders that happen, and you're trying to figure out who is the killer. Where is he? Where is she? Who is it? You will never guess the ending of this one. This one is, I love it. So similar types of stories, both like psychological thriller, mystery vibes, but very different plot lines. If you've read this one, definitely read this one. Okay, the most recent hype, Fourth Wing. Everybody's talking about it, everybody's loving it. I'm not a big fantasy reader. I find it hard to really get invested in fantasy books and want to keep reading them because obviously fantasy books are not realistic, so they're a little bit less relatable than some of the other books, like romance novels and even mystery books. I liked Fourth Wing. I thought it was great. I gave this a 4 stars, but the second one, Iron Flame, which I actually rented from the library, and I just finished it yesterday, so I turned it in. It is even better than the first. The character development is so incredible and deep in this book, and there's so many characters, but you get to know all of them and create that deeper relationship and understanding of them, their actions, how they feel, how they think. And that's what I loved about this, and that's what I was so shocked about this fantasy book, is that character development. And I feel like that's probably why everyone's loving it so much, because it's so easy to follow along and you understand what's going on, which oftentimes isn't the case, in my opinion, in fantasy books. Fourth Wing, Iron Flame, must read if you have not. Even if you hate fantasy books, trust me on that one. Local Woman Missing. This, I would say, arguably is my favorite book of all time, number 1. When you read, it takes a good 30-40 pages to become invested, know what's going on, understand the characters, start to figure out a plot, a setting, all those things. I was hooked on page 2 in this book. Your mind immediately is like, okay, what's going on? And already starting to set the scene in your imagination. Every chapter was so good, and I was eager to figure out what happened, how did these women go missing, what's the story, who's involved, who's not, and it leads you to certain people, and you're just like, what, like how? And you almost become like mad, like I want to put this down because there's no way it's not that person. Check this one out, you will not regret it. Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren. I did not expect to love this one as much as I did. I thought maybe it would be a little cheesy. So the 2 main characters are Elliot and Macy, and they were best friends, and they shared a love for books. And one night something happens, and you're not quite sure, but something happens and it drives them apart. And so this takes you on 2 different time frames, the current time versus 14, 13 years ago, and it builds up the story to what happened, why they fell apart. Love in Other Words is so cute, and the title has so much meaning behind it. You're left throughout the whole story wondering, will they come back together? Will things work out? Will there be a happy ending? And I promise you, the ending will not disappoint you. The plotline will not disappoint you, and it does not get cheesy. Okay, last book I want to include, I don't have it because I loaned it out to a friend recently. It's called, I'll put a picture of it right here, it's called In Order to Live by Yeonmi Park. She escaped North Korea, she made her way to the United States, and it takes you on her journey of what life was like living in North Korea, what it was like escaping North Korea, how that felt, what that looked like, and how her life changed and developed as she came over to the United States. It is such a good read. It really opens your eyes to other parts of the world. Obviously, I live in the United States. It really opens your eyes up to other cultures and how blessed we are to have the things that we have and how to have the freedoms that we have. She's an incredible speaker. She's an incredible person, and I highly recommend checking out her story and learning more about her. These are, I guess I did 11 because I did the extra one. 11 of my favorite books. I have so many more that I would love to talk with you about. Throughout this video, if you have read any of the books I'm talking about, make sure to comment down below. Let me know your thoughts about them, if you enjoyed them, or any recommendations that you have of other books that I should read. I'll do a video on all the books that you guys recommend after I read them, so make sure to comment, subscribe, and stay tuned for another video. Bye!